All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today, we're going to explore van life, but with a twist, a wintry twist.
Ooh, winter van life. Sounds chilly.
It can be, but so many people are curious about making it work. You all wanted to know about winterizing a van, so we've got a great guide to unpack.
Lay it on me.
We're looking at a YouTube video by Van Clan called How to Live in a Van During Winter. Full guide.
Van Clan. I've heard of them. They're the real deal, right?
Yeah, these folks have spent 3 winters on the road to talk about experience.
3 winters. Wow, they must have seen it all.
Yeah.
That's the kind of knowledge we need for this deep dive.
Exactly. Surviving 1 winter in a van sounds tough enough, but 3 winters, that's a whole other level.
For sure.
Huh?
So where do they start? What's the most important thing to consider for winter van life?
Unsurprisingly, they hit on the importance of a reliable heating system right away.
Makes total sense. You're in a compact space, could be freezing temperatures, can't just crank up the thermostat like at home.
No, not quite. They specifically recommend diesel or gas heaters, especially for those really cold climates.
Yeah, you need something robust, something you can rely on. What makes those types of heaters better for van life?
Well, from what they explain, it's all about efficiency and that consistent heat output. They're designed for continuous use, which is essential when it's freezing outside, and you're living in that van full time.
Right, exactly. So those little portable heaters just aren't going to cut it, I'm guessing.
You got it. They work okay for a quick warm-up, or maybe in milder climates, but when it's consistently below freezing.
You need something more heavy duty.
You need a system you can truly depend on, and those diesel or gas heaters seem to fit the bill.
Definitely makes sense. So what else did they cover?
Well, this next tip caught my attention. They recommend installing a battery isolator.
A battery what now?
Yeah, I know. Not exactly a common term. Battery isolator.
Okay, what does that do exactly?
To be honest, my eyes kind of glazed over a bit when they first explained it. Not really my area of expertise. But they break it down in a way that makes sense even for us non-electricians.
All right, break it down for me then.
Basically, think of it like a bridge between your van's engine battery and the batteries that power your living space.
Yeah, okay, so like a link between the two.
Exactly. It lets power flow from the engine to your house batteries, but keeps them from draining your starter battery.
So smart.
Oh.
So you can keep your lights, appliances, all that stuff running without worrying about being stranded with a dead van battery.
Exactly. And this is especially important in winter when you think about it.
Right, because you're probably running your heater more, maybe not getting as much solar power, and you really don't want to end up...
In the dark and the cold.
Exactly. No one wants that. So that isolator thing sounds like a pretty smart investment.
Absolutely. It's all about that peace of mind knowing your essential systems will keep running no matter what.
Makes sense. What other gems do they share?
All right, here's a tip I found kind of unexpected. They recommend keeping a roof vent slightly open.
Even in winter, you're kidding, right?
No, I'm serious, even in the dead of winter.
But wouldn't that just let all the heat out? It seems counterintuitive, to say the least.
I thought the same thing at first, but there's actually a very good reason for it.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So when you're living in a van, especially in winter, it's actually super easy to create a ton of moisture inside. From breathing, cooking, just body heat in general.
Ah, okay. It's a smaller space and you're trying to keep it warm, so all that moisture gets trapped.
Exactly. And that's where the trouble starts.
Trouble? Like what kind of trouble?
Well, all that trapped moisture leads to condensation. And once you've got condensation, you start seeing dampness, musty smells, and worst of all,
Mold. Ugh, that's the last thing you want in a van.
definitely not something you want in any living space, but especially not a small one. So that tiny bit of ventilation.
It's about air quality, preventing mold, keeping things fresh.
Exactly. A small price to pay for a healthier, more comfortable living environment in the long run.
Makes sense. So you got to keep that air circulating even when it's freezing outside. What about insulation, though? You got to have good insulation to stay warm in a van during winter, right?
Absolutely. Insulation is key. The Van Clen folks recommend spray foam insulation for the whole van.
Spray foam, yeah, that makes sense. Creates a good seal, prevents drafts.
Right. And for the windows, they suggest Reflectix.
Reflectix, that's that reflective stuff, right? Helps bounce the heat back in.
Exactly. It's a more budget-friendly option for windows, but to be fair, there are tons of other options out there too.
Yeah, I've heard of insulated curtains, magnetic window covers, even DIY solutions using recycled materials.
The key is to do your research and figure out what works best for your budget, your van, and the climate you'll be in.
Definitely. One size does not fit all when it comes to van life.
Absolutely. Now, this next tip might seem obvious, but I admit I wouldn't have thought of it.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Keep a full water jug inside your living space at all times.
Inside. Why inside?
Well, think about it. If your water tank is outside or underneath the van and it
I mean,
freezes,
oh, you wake up in the middle of the night parched and
no water, or at least no liquid water.
oof, that does not sound fun, especially in the middle of winter.
Not fun at all. So having that readily available water inside where it stays warmer can be a lifesaver.
Literally. Okay, that's a good tip. One I'll definitely keep in mind.
Right. It's those little things that can make a big difference in van life. And speaking of things you don't want to deal with in freezing temperatures,
Don't leave me hanging. What is it?
they emphasize the importance of heater and vehicle maintenance before winter hits.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine trying to fix something in a blizzard is not exactly,
Ideal.
not even close.
It's all about being proactive. Make sure
Mm.
everything is in tip-top shape before the cold weather sets in.
Right, you don't want to be caught off guard.
Exactly. A well-maintained vehicle is a safer vehicle. That's true in any season, but especially during winter.
I hear you. You know, it's funny how something as simple as maintenance can be easily overlooked.
It's like packing for a trip. You focus on all the fun stuff, and sometimes...
You forget the essentials.
Exactly. And in this case, those essentials could be the difference between a smooth winter van life experience.
And a really, really rough one.
Exactly. Speaking of essentials, they also recommend having a small space heater that plugs into 120V as backup.
A backup heater. So, like, if your main heating system goes kaput.
You got it. It's like an insurance policy for warmth.
I like that. An insurance policy for warmth.
Did you ever have to use a backup heater during your winter van life adventures?
As a matter of fact, I did. There was this one time it got super cold, like way colder than expected. My main system, it just decided to take a little break.
Oh, no. So what did you do?
Thankfully, I had that little backup space heater tucked away. It was a lifesaver, let me tell you.
It's like that little extra layer you pack just in case.
Exactly. You never know when you might need it. It's all about being prepared. Speaking of being prepared, the Van Clan video also mentions snow chains.
Oh, right. Essential for those mountain drives or if you're dealing with heavy snow.
Absolutely. They can really make a difference, give you that extra grip you need on slick roads. It's not just about getting yourself unstuck, it's about safety too.
Right, preventing those accidents in the first place. And I think it's worth mentioning, not all vans are created equal when it comes to drivetrains.
Good point. Front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. They all handle differently in the snow.
Exactly. And putting chains on the wrong wheels can actually reduce traction and make things more dangerous. So knowing your van's drivetrain is key.
Absolutely. Got to make sure you're putting those chains on the right tires.
Ah.
So we've talked heating, batteries, ventilation, insulation, water, maintenance, backup heaters, snow chains.
We've covered a lot of ground, but there's one more thing we should definitely address.
And what's that?
Mental well-being. You know, we touched on it earlier, but I think it deserves its own little deep dive.
You're absolutely right. It's such an important part of van life, especially in winter. You can have those perfectly winterized van out there, but if you're not mentally prepared,
It's going to be a tough time.
it's going to be really tough. You're dealing with shorter days, colder temperatures, potentially more isolation. It's not just about staying warm physically. It's about staying positive and engaged mentally.
And that's where those mental tools and strategies come in, right?
What are some of the things that helped you stay resilient during those long winter months?
You know, one thing that really made a difference for me was prioritizing natural light. Even on cloudy days, I try to get outside for a bit, or at least sit by a window and soak up whatever sunlight I could.
It's amazing how much of an impact that can have. Even just a little bit of natural light. It really does make a difference. It can help boost your mood, your energy levels. It's like a little recharge for your mind and body. And speaking of recharging, having a routine can be super helpful too. You know, like sticking to a regular sleep schedule, having set times for meals, work, and relaxation.
Ah, so it's like creating those little pockets of normalcy and structure within the van life, right?
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between freedom and routine, especially during winter when the days are shorter and it can be easy to fall into those unhealthy patterns.
Like sleeping in late and staying up all night.
Precisely. A routine can help keep you grounded and on track. And let's not forget about creative outlets. Incorporating things like writing, drawing, playing music, whatever you enjoy, into your day can make a world of difference.
I love that. It's like van life gives you this opportunity to reconnect with those passions and hobbies that maybe you've neglected.
Absolutely. It's a chance to explore those creative sides of yourself that maybe haven't had as much time to shine. And on that note, let's talk about connection, the humankind. Staying connected with loved ones is so important, especially during winter when isolation can be a real challenge.
Thank goodness for technology. Even when you're miles from civilization, you can still video chat, text, email, stay in touch.
It's a lifesaver for a lot of van lifers. And don't forget about the van life community itself. There are so many online forums, groups, meetups, you name it. Places where you can connect with other van lifers, share tips, get advice, and just know that you're not alone in this.
It's like having a built-in support system, people who get it, who understand the unique joys and challenges of this lifestyle.
Exactly. Knowing you're not alone can make a huge difference,
Hmm.
especially when you're facing those tougher moments.
Because, let's be real, even with all the best preparation and positive vibes, there will be days when those winter blues hit. What do you do when you find yourself feeling down or unmotivated?
The first thing is to just acknowledge those feelings. It's okay to not be okay all the time. Don't try to force yourself to be happy if you're genuinely feeling down. Be kind to yourself. Let yourself feel those emotions.
Because it's not all sunshine and adventure, right?
Definitely not. It's just like any other lifestyle. It has its ups and downs. The key is to find healthy ways to cope with those downs.
So, what are some healthy coping mechanisms? What worked for you?
One thing that helped me was having a list of activities I knew would boost my mood. Reading, listening to podcasts, journaling, working on creative projects, even just having a little dance party in my van.
A dance party in the van. I love it.
Hey, whatever works. The point is, it's about having that toolkit of things you can turn to when you need a little pick-me-up.
It's like having a mental first aid kit.
Exactly. And the contents of that kit will be different for everyone. What matters is that you find what works for you and that you use those tools proactively. Don't wait until you're already feeling overwhelmed or burned out.
It's all about being proactive and taking care of yourself, mentally and emotionally. It's just as important as taking care of your physical needs.
Absolutely. It's about creating that positive feedback loop. When you prioritize your mental health, you're better equipped to handle the challenges that come your way. And that, in turn, makes you feel more confident, more capable, more resilient.
It's like investing in your mental capital, which then pays dividends when you need it most. You know, it's interesting, right? We're talking about winterizing a van, but it's almost like you're winterizing your mindset at the same time.
I like that, winterizing your mindset. You
Hmm.
got to be prepared for the mental challenges just as much as the physical ones.
Exactly. And speaking of being prepared, the Van Clan folks, they really hammered home the importance of having backup plans, especially for winter.
Backup plans, always a good idea. We talked about having a backup heater, but what other backups should people consider?
Well, they mentioned something that's easy to overlook but super important:
Okay, hit me with it.
communication. Even if you're going off grid, you need a reliable way to reach someone in case of an emergency.
Right, because cell service can be spotty, especially in remote areas.
Exactly. So think about things like a satellite phone or a GPS messenger device.
Makes sense. It's not just about being able to call for help. It's also about that peace of mind knowing you're not completely isolated.
Exactly. That feeling of security can make a big difference when you're out there facing those winter elements.
Absolutely. Another thing to consider is having a designated safe spot. A place you can go if the weather gets really bad or if you just need a break from the van life for a bit.
Oh, like a friend's house, a campground with hookups, maybe even a hotel room in a pinch.
Exactly. It's like an escape hatch, just in case things get too intense.
I like that, an escape hatch. Gives you some flexibility, takes the pressure off. So we've got backups for our heating, our communication, even a backup location. What about backups for our mental well-being? What are some of those mental tools that you found helpful during winter?
For me, having a go-to list of activities that I knew would boost my mood was key. Things like reading, listening to podcasts, writing in my journal, working on creative projects, even just having a dance party in my van.
A van dance party, that's awesome. Whatever works, right?
Exactly. It's about finding those things that bring you joy, help you relax, tap into those inner resources. It's all about self-awareness.
Knowing what you need to stay balanced and grounded. And it's better to be proactive about it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Don't wait until you're already feeling stressed or burned out. Make those mental health practices a regular part of your routine.
makes sense. Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, was there anything that surprised you about winter van life? Something you didn't anticipate before you hit the road?
What surprised me the most was how much I learned about myself during those winter months. The solitude, the challenges, the quiet moments of reflection, they all pushed me to grow in ways I hadn't expected.
It's like winter van life became this unexpected journey of self-discovery.
It really did. It forced me to face my fears, tap into my resilience, and ultimately discover a strength I didn't know I had.
That's really inspiring. So, for those listening who are feeling the pull of the open road, the allure of winter van life, what advice would you give them?
Do your research. Prepare thoroughly. Don't be afraid to ask for help or advice. But most importantly, trust your instincts, embrace the journey, and be open to the lessons that winter has to teach you.
Beautiful. It sounds like winter van life is an incredible adventure, full of challenges and rewards. It's about pushing boundaries, exploring new horizons, and ultimately discovering more about yourself along the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, folks, there you have it, a deep dive into winter van life, from the practical tips to the mental and emotional preparation. It's a journey that requires planning, resilience, and a whole lot of heart. Thanks for joining us on this adventure. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep sharing your stories with us. We'll see you down the road.